Welcome back to another episode of the Tour Operator Growth Podcast. We're excited for this episode. We have a returning guest, Brandon, and we're kicking off a brand new stage in the Resmark Growth Engine. Up to this point, we talked about the dreaming stage and the planning stage, and now we are diving into the booking stage. We're going to be breaking the booking stage out in two parts, and that's because there's a lot to unpack. Today is part one, and we're focusing on product pages and your tour descriptions. Quick note before we jump in. If you've been listening to the podcast and you're starting to see some gaps in your own business, that's exactly why we created this. We work with tour operators every single day on website, SEO, booking flow, paid ads, conversion, really the entire system. And this growth engine framework is what we use for our own clients to help them scale in a consistent way. So if you are enjoying and want to apply this to your own business and have us help you, please reach out. We'd love to have the chance to just jump on a discovery call with you and walk through if we could help you. But for now, let's jump in, guys. Brandon, to start us off, why are people landing on tour pages and just not booking?
It's a good question, Nikki. Before I answer that, can I just back up for a minute and talk about conversion rate? Because I operate two different tour companies. We look at this all the time, right? And it's so often a phrase that we throw around in the industry, conversion rate, but we don't really think about what it means or what a little change to conversion rate can actually mean for our revenue. So I'm going to give you a little analogy that I like to use to kind of think about this, okay? I want you to imagine that you've created an amazing experience. This experience, you are so excited about it. You want to invite everybody to come and have the experience. And the way it's going to go down is like this. You have a theater, and you're going to invite people to come sit in the theater, and you're going to give them an opportunity to watch a preview of the experience. It's going to be 15 seconds. Within those 15 seconds, all the people in the theater are going to decide whether they are going to proceed with the experience and pay you $100 or whether they are going to leave. Okay? So you work hard, you do all your marketing, you do everything right, you fill the theater. Let's say there's 100 people that come in. They're all in their seats, they're ready to watch it, and the preview starts, and within 15 seconds, 98 people have stood up and walked out of the theater. What are you thinking as the operator? Like, what? My experience was amazing. Why did you all leave, right? But I want you to think about this for a minute, because that scenario is happening every day on your website. It's not just a metaphor that way, right? This is your tour pages. It's your home page. It's your checkout process, all of it. And there are little things that we can talk about, and we'll talk about a lot of these today, that will make a huge difference in that. If you ran that scenario, Nikki, for a whole year, the difference of 98 people walking out every single day versus you just keeping one more person in the theater every day adds up to potentially tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we'll talk about that. So hopefully that frames it a little bit. You can kind of think about something visual when we talk about conversion rate today. So back to your question. Why are people landing on tour pages and not booking? So there are a handful of reasons that we're going to jump into here. Tour operator sites typically convert at a little bit lower rate than even the broader travel industry. When I'm talking travel industry, I'm talking hotels, cruise lines, flights, all of that kind of stuff. We're looking at conversion rates in like the 1% to 3% range. Okay. And sometimes a little bit lower than that, even if a site has a lot more informational type pages on it. So the product page you're talking about is the preview. Like, this is the experience, right? We land on it and we make a decision really quickly as to whether or not we're going to move forward. And there are a bunch of things that people are looking for during that process. And I'll just mention maybe 5 key things that I like to think about when you look at a tour page. Okay. The first one is, does this match where I came from? So we don't just get to a tour page because we type in a URL, right? I don't have all the URLs of every tour page memorized. So I'm going to have something else that I've seen before I get there. What is it? It could be an organic listing in Google. It might be an ad. It might be an email. Maybe I saw this, the answer was in AI, right? And so I've got some preconceived idea in my head about what I'm about to see on the other side of this link I'm about to click. And the first thing is immediately, does it match what I just saw, what I just came from? Whatever the imagery was, whatever the wording was, whatever that is, it got something into my brain that made me emotionally connected enough to click it. And so when I land there, that connection is really, really important, right? The next piece is, can I do this? So especially in the tour and activity space, we are doing this all the time, like qualifying ourselves, right? Like, is this for me? Whether it's physically for you, whether it is, you feel like you're the right age to do this thing, whether you're like the other people that are doing this thing, whether you're going to fit with group who's doing this thing, we want to see that. And then, of course, price, right? And sometimes we can kind of get that wrong, like the price, people will interpret or they'll see the price, it will kind of hit their brain before they see the value. So getting that order is really right. So those are a few things that cause people to hit a product page and not book. And we'll talk about lots more as we go through this.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, Brandon. When people come on the website, obviously they have a lot of questions. They're coming from different paths. They might be coming, like you mentioned, from outside sources. They might be coming from pages from your website to that product page. And there's a lot of questions that they're trying to answer. So what kind of things can tour operators do realistically to optimize these tour pages to increase that conversion rate like you talked about at the beginning?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things that are really critical to this. So think about those handful of things that we just talked about, right? Does this match where I came from? So making sure that the language or the imagery of wherever they just came from, this is true, Greg, you mentioned like, okay, they came from another page on your site. Sometimes they're clicking on like a little teaser listing about the tour, right? It's got a picture,
Right.
it's got the tour name, it has some descriptive text about it. Make sure that those things match. Sometimes we go to click on a tour and it's like, boom, and then the image on the next page is completely different than the one that was in the teaser. And that disconnect is like, whoops, I just landed on the wrong page. That seems really like obvious when you say it, but we don't always pay attention to those things on a website. I've like missed that a lot on our own website where you're like, ooh, I love this picture on this page. And then click, oh, I like this picture over here, and it's like the visitor is making decisions in milliseconds. And so that mismatch can really make a difference. So that's one thing. The other piece is thinking about what you actually have in your images. So if you think about your ideal client, we'll talk more about ideal client here in a little bit of like, how do we figure that out? But if you think about the people you want on your trip, does your imagery, does your text, your copy resonate with them? Are you showing, can they see themselves in your imagery? Like, do the people in those pictures look like them, right? Where they're like, she's like me. He's like I am. That family's like my family, whatever it might be. That seems like a small thing too, but it's really critical. Sometimes I've seen tour operators go out and they'll be like, well, I grabbed all my friends and I used them as models because they were easy. But guess what? Your friends might not be your ideal customer, right? They might be like the wrong age, the wrong everything. And now you're missing the point. We actually have a video on our site for a struggling product. And the video is taken of a bunch of people that it's actually another supplier that we sell for. And they took these like mid 20-year-olds out on this tour and they're like kind of hardcore and like going after it. And that is not our audience, right? Like our audience is older. They're generally parents with children. They're not all families, but they're older married couples, sometimes retired people, whatever. Like, this is not resonating with them, and we have sold very little of it. So like that makes a huge difference. And then there's just a couple of other things that I think make a difference. If you can get reviews, what I like to call converted skeptics. So like, find someone who had the same doubts as your ideal customer and then became converted, right? Like, oh, I didn't think I could do this, but I did, and this company made it possible for me. That's a converted skeptic, and it will resonate in people's psychology in a way that just somebody who says this was the best trip ever is not going to resonate as much. So that's another key. Having named guides in your reviews, or if you got a couple of key guides that always guide a certain tour, put their face, their name, like that personal connection makes a really big difference versus just a generic, like, oh, this is a tour and it has pretty pictures. People want to connect with people, and especially in this industry, and that makes a big difference.
Do you think that's still
last couple of
important to
things
do? Just real quick, Brandon, do you think that's still important to do if you have like different guides every single year and they're not consistent?
I think, yeah, it's a real challenge when you do have that scenario. And that's a lot of companies, right? If you're not just like a company that has certain specific guides that have been guiding this for years and they're just sticking around, that can be a little bit more challenging. But I think showing an example of what those guides look like is fine. No, I mean, people aren't necessarily going to see that and go, where's Kim? Like, she was the one I saw a picture. They don't necessarily remember that, but what that does happen is psychologically they see that picture and go, oh, this looks like a person I would want to have as my guide, and it's a representation of who those guides are. So I wouldn't worry about that too much, that they're like taking inventory and writing notes of who they expect to see on this tour, but showing an example guide could be a good thing. And then a couple other things that I think really make a difference are like what I like to refer to as trust markers. So these are easy things, but sometimes we just totally overlook them. Like, get your reviews, your review count right there. And there's key places to put these that we'll talk about, but like, make sure that's on the page. And other things that give people pause are like cancellation policies. So wherever they see that price, make sure they see like what the policy is to back out. If you got a flexible one, like a 24 hours in advance type policy that a lot of tour companies do, particularly for day trips, make that front and center, because that just reduces some anxiety, right? People are like, if I put all my money, how do I get it back, right? And don't make them dig for that. Like, just put it right there, and then they can go, hey, you can pay for this now, you can back out later. And most people don't, right? They book because they want to do the tour. They're not booking because they're planning to cancel. But that will stop them from booking if it's not clear that they can back out.
They made it to that page. Reassure them as much as you can. We're talking a lot about, making sure that the messaging, the imagery, everything is consistent, things are in the right places. Let's chat a little bit about the actual descriptions of the tours. Are they important? Of course, we know that they are, but why is it important to have really ICP, so you're talking to your ideal customer, in every one of those tour descriptions, and kind of what is best steps or practices for somebody to start implementing, we'll call it ICP copy, on their tour descriptions?
Yeah. This is a hard one for, like, if you own a tour if you own a tour operation, or if you're doing the marketing for it, our tendency is to insert ourselves, right? Like, I'm going to write this like I would, like the way it would sell to me. But guess what? If you're the one running this tour operation, or you're the one doing the marketing, like, you're probably not identical to your client base. For years, I did this, right? I'm like, I love that, and I'm a super big outdoors person. I do all our trips. I was a guide for a trip. Like, I am not our typical audience. I'm very comfortable with all these things. I love doing it. I don't think twice about any of the questions that most of our customers have. And so I'm sitting here writing copy to myself, and I'm like, yeah, that nails it, that's not going to resonate with ours. So we've actually taken a different approach at ResmarkWeb that has changed everything. And it's actually changed everything for our business as well. So I'll just give you a quick overview of this. We could talk for a whole hour about this, but we have a kind of a data-driven process, because if we put our own brains in it, we'll screw it up, like I said. So we actually will go in, we'll pull like 500 to 1,000 reviews, your guest reviews. I'm talking Google, TripAdvisor, Yelp, Facebook, wherever they come from. We pull all of those in. We go in and grab 12 months of your Google Analytics data. If it's there, we'll actually grab thousands of chat conversations. These are like pre-booking, especially the pre-booking ones. We'll grab some post-booking ones as well, because there's some good data there. But the pre-booking ones are full of information about concerns and questions, and it's a gold mine, right, for all of this stuff. And then we'll actually we have a very specific 18-question interview that we walk through with the founder or business owner. And I actually had someone from our team interview me so we could get all of this data, right? And then we process it. We have a very specific process that we go through to dive into this, and we extract certain things from it. Like, what are the key barriers to purchase that are being expressed by this audience? What are the key purchase drivers that are really pushing these people over the edge to just make that purchase? Who are they from a demographic perspective? What are their ages? What is their gender? What is what do they do? All of those things we can actually extract from this, and it is amazing what comes out on the other side. So, Nikki, you're saying, how do we get to this, right? Like, how do we really do? We say ICP. We use that phrase a lot in our business. Ideal customer profile, right? Meaning I have isolated who my ideal customer is. I've figured out what's in their heart and in their mind, and I'm speaking to it. Not like I want to be spoken to, but like they want to be spoken to. In fact, I'm even using some of their language, like from reviews, like the way they would say it. So when they hit a page, the tour name is named a certain way that's going to resonate. The first line of text especially is going to resonate. The things that they truly care about and want to see are going to be wrapped all around my price and my buttons that are like my call to action buttons. And all of that is going to be there. And it is crazy the difference that one change can make, right? In our copy especially, but also images, video. Like, once we have that understanding, we can change those things. And now we've got something that is going to it's going to resonate far more and be far more compelling, and it's going to increase conversion rate.
Yeah, when I think of copy and what we're doing with copy right now, it's really awesome, but it could seem daunting right now. Like, oh, how do I do the ICP? How do I do this? How do I change everything? One thing I think that can be changed really quickly as well, if you're doing this, which the ICP process, not as difficult as it seems. We can help you with that as well. But one thing I see all the time that I don't think speaks to people as often is we. You'll read the content and it's, we do this. We make sure you have a great experience. We, you know, blah, blah, blah. Put yourself in the shoes of the actual person that is going to do your tour and talk to them. So instead of like, we're going to make sure it's great, it's, you're going to have a great time. You, or just make sure that you're speaking to them and less about your company and less about what you're going to do. I think it resonates with people a lot better when you're talking to them instead of just about yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes we refer to that as sort of like features versus benefits, in marketing speak, right? And I like to think of it as kind of like features versus outcomes, like what's really going to resonate with them is the outcome. They need to know, but don't disregard features. Like, people need to know, how long is the trip? What class is the whitewater? What is the minimum age? That's information, details, sometimes features, right? I need that stuff. But what are you going to say in the copy? that's going to speak to them to be like, that's what you're going to be talking about in 10 years around the Thanksgiving dinner table, like, and they're seeing that. That is the outcome. That's what they ultimately want. They want this experience that's going to bring, either them closer to other people or their family or their spouse or whoever they're traveling with. Part of what they want is that shared experience, right? That they're going to see certain outcomes from that. Whatever, and experiences are all across the board. So there is not one outcome that's a fit for every product by any means, right? Every product has different outcomes. And that's something that you can do with this data-driven approach too, is you can kind of dive in on a per product or per tour basis and see what those outcomes are. This is not, I mean, you'll see some general themes for an overall business, and we find those when we do that. But then the key is like dig into the individual products, because that's where the magic really happens. It's, you got to get it right and get it matched to the ideal customer by product.
And when people are usually writing reviews, or, we could always match what they're writing based off of. So what tour did they go on? Are they talking about that specific tour in the review? Like, we could use that as part of, creating the copy for that specific description, for that specific persona in that, customer profile.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's important too that, like, we don't try to sell to everyone. Sometimes we want to do that, right? Like, I just want everybody should do this. And that's really not true. Like, if you ever think about some of the bad reviews that you've gotten as a tour operator, we've all got them, whether they were put on Google or not. Hopefully they weren't, but like, we've had people complain and stuff, and you can probably pinpoint, like, yeah, that kind of person, I don't want that kind of person back in the future, right? So part of our job is not just make this resonate with everybody, it's help people decide, is this for me, right? Is it not for me? And those can be really, really important. Like, you want your tour descriptions and the copy to be like specific enough that this feels real to them. It's not so generic and high level that they can't visualize themselves there. We've added a couple things to our tour pages that I think really help with this. Like, one is we have this graphic of a person fully dressed. It's not a real person. It's like a drawing of a person. And whether they're going horseback riding or they're going mountain biking or they're going rafting or hiking, whatever it is, you can see this person from head to toe with little descriptors pointing to how, what they've brought with them and how they're dressed, so that a person can look at it and in an instant say, I could be like that. I could dress like that and go and do this thing, and it needs to happen very quickly like that. I don't want to read a ton of copy, just see this thing, go, yes, that's me. I could do that. So I'm qualifying myself. But at the same time, sometimes we want to disqualify people. So how do we do that, right? Like, we're adding or rebuilding our Western River website right now through ResmarkWeb. And one section that I'm really excited about on our tour pages is a section that we've phrased, know before you go. And in this section, we're talking about some of the realities of a trip. This is like a high value, high expense type trip for multiple days that you don't want to get the wrong person out there, right? Because then not only it's not being miserable for a couple of hours or feeling like you don't fit for 2 to 4 hours on. It's like 2 to 7 days that you're going to be out there having this experience, and you want people to be absolutely loving it. And so we'll get real about what it means, to be in the Grand Canyon for that period of time and what some of the realities of the trip are. And it helps. I think that transparency and on first the right people can help sell the trip. They're like, yeah, I want to have this experience. I realize I'm going to be out there and nature's unpredictable and it could be hot and the water's cold and all of these things, that helps even sell to the right people. But for the wrong people, ideally they'd say, no, not for me. And I'm 100% great with that, because they're not our ideal customer.
You don't want them to have a bad experience. You don't want to have a bad review.
Exactly.
So, win-win.
Yeah.
So when we're doing a lot of these core principles across all our clients, we as a team are realizing, okay, what needs to go where, especially on like the product pages specifically. We've tried and tested, looked at the data. Obviously, tour descriptions are going to be very specific to that client specifically. But let's talk a little bit about, Brandon, what are some core elements that always need to go above the fold? Or what are some, where should the trust signals go? Let's talk about things that we've found from our clients and can use that across, other clients.
Yeah. This is so important, Nikki. Like this question, we've got to get it right because it is where the theater preview is happening, right? Like that, whatever loads, when you say above the fold, what we're talking about, it's a phrase we use in website development a lot, right? And we're talking about what loads in your view on the screen, whether that's mobile, what loads on your phone screen without you scrolling down, and what loads on your desktop screen without you scrolling down, okay? So what needs to be in that space? Number one, your tour name needs to be there. Obviously, the tour name is actually really critical. And I was surprised to see what a difference it made. We made some changes to our tour names by doing all this research. And not only were they a little better for SEO, but I think they're a big part of some pretty significant conversion rate increases that we saw. So we compared our new website to old website. And in the month, this was the month of March, the month before last now, there was a 37% increase, which is pretty significant. Now, you look at that, like it actually in 1 month yielded over $100,000 difference. So like that's a big deal to have that kind of conversion rate increase. So tour name, I think, was part of it. So that's number one. You're going to want to have some kind of what we call maybe a hero image or a video or something that is that emotional connector that ideally, again, matches where they came from, if they came from another page on the site, but something visual that is representing that tour. And ideally, the guests can see themselves in it. So perhaps not just a straight up scenic picture of the place, right? Maybe something that's got a little bit of that scenery and feel, but also shows the type of person that does this so they can make that correlation. The other things that you want on there are trust markers. So trust markers, we're talking about star ratings, review count, awards, featured in, some publication that people might recognize, whatever that might be that you have that says, hey, you can trust us, we're credible because of this or these things, right? That's really, really important. And honestly, people should see that like probably right even before they see the price. So when you're thinking about like ordering these things, you've got the product name, you've got some trust markers right there with it, you've got that hero image, and then the price is kind of coming into view, right? It's all going to be above the fold, but those pieces are really critical. If you can also get in the answer to like, can I do this? If you can figure out how to weave that in either from whether that's a testimonial, the right picture, something like that is answering, because that's the first question people have in their head. Like, can I do this thing? Is this for me? They've got to find that match, right? That's critical. And then the last thing, which I would say it's as important as anything else I've just mentioned, but if this is not in view, then I think we're missing a big opportunity, which is your call to action. You need to have some button or something there that is saying, book now, check availability, add to cart, whatever it is. We test these too. Like we test different words because different words on that button will make a difference. So, and they're different for different companies, but we love to test those for companies and kind of see what is the phrase that makes sense for your product. So there's a handful of those are like key heavy hitters.
Can I add one thing to that list?
Yeah.
I would say if your tour or your product, whatever it is, has like a key differentiator, trying to show that clearly. Like you talked about your product name. I know on Moab Adventure Center, you have a river rafting product. that is a full day Moab rafting adventure with barbecue lunch. That is the tour name now. And for me, that's a huge differentiator. Having been on river rafting trips with various companies, not everyone offers a barbecue lunch. Still a good lunch. You eat sandwich or whatever on the beach. It's nice. But now when you're seeing, oh, well, maybe the price is a little bit more, or maybe they're comparing apples to apples. I don't know. It's something that's gonna stand out even more of like, "Oh, I get a barbecue lunch here, whereas this one I just get, a sandwich on the beach."
Mhm.
So it might be that thing that pushes them over the edge to choose you over someone else as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. And the tour name is a great place to put that. We did that like you mentioned there, and it's what's going to stand out. As people are, because keep in mind, like, these people aren't just landing on your site. They've been to perhaps 3 to 5 other websites where they're just making quick product comparisons, and they're bouncing around and going back and forth to wherever they came from to check these things out before they make a decision. Like, think about yourself doing this, like, you move around pretty quick. And so something that's going to stay in their head, like the tour name, it's going to give a comparison. It's like, wait a minute, that's different. I did not see that on any other site. So love that, Greg.
Sometimes you don't know until you look at the data that you need to change some of these things. We did some conversion optimizations for, many clients we did conversion optimizations for, but this client specifically, we launched their website, looked at the data, analyzed it, and then made some changes very specific to what we thought was going to increase conversion rate. So their conversion rate increased by 150%. Their purchases went from 20 to 44 in 1 month, and their revenue increased by 176%. And that is just by tour page conversion optimization. So we're changing specific things that Brandon was discussing, whether we added in those trust signals or we moved things up on the page, and we're doing these tour things. As we're looking at the data, maybe we changed the language on the call to action. Rather than check availability, we changed it to book now. And of course, when we're going to be testing things like this, we don't want to change it all at once, because then we don't know what's working, what's not working. But after we're, making these changes, we're looking at it, and then we're able to see these kind of results. We don't need more traffic. We just need to increase that conversion rate. And it obviously was really successful for several of our clients just recently. We were looking at the CRO, conversion rate optimization.
So as we wrap up here, Brandon, just kind of put a bow on this. If you had to give a tour operator one thing to fix on their tour page this week, what would be the number one thing that you would have them do?
Great question, Greg. Let's give people a final takeaway here. I'm going to give you a couple things three things in order, okay? Because some of you might say, "Oh, I already do that, so I don't need to do that," and then you don't have anything to take away from this. So, one thing, I'm going to give you some really easy ones, okay? And they're going to be in the categories of relevance, reassurance, and performance, okay? And I think about those 3 words as we go through this. So, number 1 is relevance. If you can change something about your tour page that answers that "can I do this" question, whether that's your picture, whether that's your product name, a little tag that says top tour for families, like something that is going to go, aha, I'm in the right place and I can do this because other people like me have done it, right? Think about, if you have the data like we've been talking about this whole time, fantastic. Then you know what that guest profile looks like. You know what their age range is. You know what a converted skeptic is going to look like, right? Something that's going to reassure the visitor in the first 5 seconds that this trip is for them. And if you can do that with ICP type research, that's an easy one to answer and get right. So that would be number 1, just relevance. Make it relevant to that person. Number 2, if you're saying, yeah, I did that already. I've done that. And I feel like it's really nailing it. I've had it there for a long time. Great. The second piece would be reassurance. And I don't know if I actually included this in my earlier bullets, but wherever you're putting, no, we did talk about this. Okay. So the second one is reassurance. Wherever you have your price listed, make sure that you have your cancellation policy. Even if you have a longer written out one, longer down the page or something, I'll just use the most common one in the travel industry. If it's full refund within, canceling within 24 hours, that's a simple little one line of text that's not going to take up very much room. Put that on the page. And have your, wherever that is, wherever your call to action and all those things that we just talked about are located, if you can get that, we didn't really mention this before, but if you can get that to be sticky on the page, like frozen. So when the page scrolls, whether you're on mobile and that button is just floating there at the bottom, it's always in view, or you're on desktop and that little sidebar is staying there. That alone, having all of these things we've talked about, like always in view while you're evaluating content over here, that is really, really powerful. Okay. So relevance, if you can get it, the reassurance that's like, and it's frozen and positioned there together with all the other key things. If you're like, yeah, I've done that. My page is super relevant. I'm reassuring people. Where would I go next? The last one would be performance. And we didn't talk about this very much throughout the whole podcast, so I'll mention it here. Your page speed is an absolutely critical factor. Like, it is crazy, especially in the travel space, what happens if you even get like a 0.1 second improvement on your load time. Like every 0.1 second, there are some stats out there that will say that's worth 10% more conversions. That much in the travel space, like that's pretty crazy, but sometimes we think in seconds, like your page is taking 5 seconds to get there. Oh my goodness. If you could shave off 3 of those seconds, just automatic boost in conversion rate, particularly on mobile, which is another thing we didn't touch on a whole lot, but I would say for almost all of us, most of your visitors are coming to your site on mobile. So all of these principles we've been talking about today, put them in a mobile first framework. Like really think about what does that experience look like? Sometimes when we're working, we're like on our desktop computer because it's more efficient to do work there, right? I'm not going to answer all my business emails on my phone and do everything there, right? Like I'm going to be on this. So when I look at my website, a lot of times I'm looking at it not on my phone. I browse my website on my phone, right? But go check out what that experience is really like. And what is it like for someone with a slightly slower connection on their phone? Maybe because of where they're located or whatever. Those things can make a really big impact. So relevance, reassurance, and performance. If you can look at those things and sort of check those off in that order, I think you can find really big impact. And if you're thinking about those things going, that sounds like great in principle, but I don't even know where to start, like reach out to ResmarkWeb. Like the team is fantastic. We utilize them for our own businesses and it's awesome. And we have a full marketing team and people that are focused on SEO and conversion rate. Like we do that, but we still utilize them because having another person to bounce things off of and give us insights and keep us on track with like monthly reports and help us see what we're doing and monthly initiatives is kind of coaching us through the process of improvement. That makes a huge difference. And that's what we're talking about here is incremental improvements, just a little bit at a time. Do this one thing, test it, improve it. Do another thing, test it, optimize that. Do a third thing, optimize that. And you'll find that over time, every little incremental improvement boosts your conversion rate. And that even 0.5%, 1%, maybe even up to, we see as much as 30% plus with some clients when you implement all of these things. That could be the difference between $50,000 a year, $100,000 plus a year, $100,000 plus a month is what we saw with those changes. So this is not a little thing we're talking about. Sometimes we think, I need more traffic. I need more how do I get more traffic? How do I rank higher? That's important, but it's not important until you fix the conversion problem, right? Then go get more traffic, nail the conversion, then go get more people to come and sit in your theater, because that's when you're going to get more people raising their hand saying, I want to buy a ticket.
That was a lot. That was a lot in 40 minutes. So thank you, Brandon. And that was so much that we have to break this into part 2. So we're going to pick this right back up where we're leaving off, but we're going to talk about once somebody really clicks book now, then what happens. All right. As always, if you're getting value from this podcast, share it with another tour operator, send it to a friend, leave a review. It really helps us keep going. And as Brandon said, if you'd like to see what Resmark can do for your own tour business, please book a call. We always keep the call links in the description, so feel free to click it and book a call. And we'll see you on the next episode.